We are seeing horrifying videos of ICE agents battering down people's doors without a warrant, racially profiling people on the street.
This is not about safety. This is not about immigration. This is about sowing chaos on the streets of Minneapolis. This is about political retribution.
This looks like modern-day slave patrols.
Top Democrats holding a field hearing in Minnesota to investigate ICE, slamming the agency as protesters clash with agents in Minneapolis. Here to react is former Speaker of the House and Fox News political analyst Newt Gingrich. Newt, it's always great to have you on. Good morning. So obviously, thank you. Obviously, the Democrats think this is a winning political issue going into the midterms. I also remember, Newt, when they thought that BLM and, defund the police was. What are your thoughts? Is this going to be useful to them, politically speaking?
Well, if you want to run as the party that's pro-illegal immigration, that is against deporting illegal immigrants who are criminals, that wants to basically break the law against federal officials. Remember, ICE is, in fact, a federal agency. And under federal law, they have the right, they have the duty to enforce the law. And most Americans agree that if you find people who are here illegally, that you have the right to deport them. I don't think there's any doubt about that for most Americans. But the Democrats have adopted across the board a pro-illegal immigration, pro-allowing criminals rather than the police, and a willingness to encourage people to break the law. I don't think that's sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. But again, I get to the question of why. How much do you think perhaps this has to do with the census? The census counts everybody, whether they're illegal or not. And then the congressmen are apportioned according to population, not citizens. Do you think this could be part of a way for them to hold on to power? If a lot of illegals get deported and illegals continue to not come to this country, they lose power, don't they?
Well, I think it's deeper than that. I think you're right. But in addition to that, I think there's something in the core values of the left that is always in favor of the criminal. That was true for domestic criminals, not just for illegal immigrants. It's always against the police. It's always against authority. And they just can't help themselves. They have a visceral, immediate response that if you represent authority, you must be bad. And if you're a criminal, it was probably something in your childhood. It's not your fault that you're a rapist or a murderer. And we shouldn't be too difficult in dealing with you. I mean, I personally think it's nuts. But for a very substantial, maybe 20% of the country, they really do believe these kind of strange values.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, the White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett says that Trump is going to announce a major housing plan at Davos, and he's revealing that he will let Americans tap their 401ks for down payments. Watch this.
The truth is that fewer people are buying homes right now than we've seen pretty much in my lifetime. And the reason is that we had runaway Biden inflation, and the down payment they needed to buy a home went from about $15,000 to about $32,000. And so there's a lot of room to make up. And we've got a whole bunch of policies that are going to help people do that. We're going to allow people to take money out of their 401ks and use that for down payment.
So, Newt, last week the president said that he was going to stop private equity firms from purchasing homes. So homes are for people, not private equity firms. And now this, and he's announcing it at Davos, where they said you won't own anything and you'll be happy. So tell me about that.
Well, first of all, Klust, as you know, is the ambassador to Switzerland. So we're looking forward to seeing the president next week at the World Economic Forum. I think he's making a very calculated distinction. Investing in a home, building up home ownership, is in fact a major step for most Americans in preparing for retirement. So why shouldn't you be able to get the same tax break that you would get in a 401k, which helps you with your retirement? And I think there's a real desire here to reestablish home ownership as a base for the American system. And it was frankly compounded by the way the politicians allowed student loans to get out of control. So all too many young people graduated from college or from medical school or law school owing so much money that they couldn't afford to buy a home. Well, we want to reverse that. We want to make it easy to save up and to become a homeowner because people behave differently if they have an investment in their neighborhood, if they have a sense of property, if they're involved in taking care of something, which in 20 or 30 years becomes a very valuable nest egg. I mean, the number of senior Americans whose biggest single asset is their home is remarkable. And that was a long-term project that moved us from being a nation of renters to a nation of property owners. And I think that President Trump is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, so one side is defending criminals and against ICE, and the other side's trying to bring you a home. We'll see how these midterms go, right? Newt Gingrich,
That's exactly right.
we appreciate you joining us so early in the morning. Thank you. And say hello to Callista from us.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.